Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a life woven from just completely unexpected threads.
Yeah.
You've got a journalist covering news in Paris, then a teacher working with students way over in Haiti, and also a scholar deep into 19th century French literature.
Okay, quite the mix already.
Exactly. Now, picture that same person deciding to, pivot and start writing young adult fantasy novels.
Wow. Okay, that is unexpected. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How does someone go from, say, academic analysis to, well, dragons and gnomes?
It's a fascinating question, and it's a truly compelling journey, I think. It shows how maybe experiences that seem totally separate can actually come together and fuel something really creative.
Absolutely, a unique kind of creativity.
Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take your sources and really try to pull out the most compelling nuggets, the most interesting bits of knowledge.
And today, we're embarking on an in-depth exploration, you could say, of the remarkable life and the creative world of Alain Lescart.
Yeah, we're drawing insights from his biography and also the first chapter of his novel, The Bloodstones of Power. It's quite captivating.
Our mission here, really, is to uncover how this rich tapestry of real-world experiences and pretty deep academic work can, maybe surprisingly, feed into imaginative storytelling.
Yeah, like as we peel back the layers, maybe you'll start to see how his scholarly work, say on, the social stuff in 19th century Paris, how that might subtly connect to the surprising wit of a character like Geppetto the Gnome in his book.
Right, and perhaps it'll spark a bit of an aha moment for you, our listener,
Yeah.
about your own, unique journey and experiences.
So let's dive in. Let's start with Alain Lescart's incredibly diverse path. It begins in Menton, France, a really picturesque town,
A lovely part of the world.
isn't it? His early years were spent soaking up the culture in southern France, but also Belgium. So a wonderfully immersive start to life, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. That kind of early exposure to different cultures, it must lay some groundwork, right, for a
Yeah.
more global perspective later on.
You see it woven through his career, I think.
Yeah, definitely. His first professional steps were as a TV journalist, Euromedia production in Paris.
Okay.
Then he moved to Brussels, spent 3 years there as a radio journalist and producer, actually for religious programs at Radio Bon Nouvelle.
Interesting.
And get this, during that same period, he was also teaching elementary and middle school classes.
Wow. Okay. That's quite a juggle right from the start.
It really is.
And the sort of global roaming didn't stop there, did it? He then took on a teaching role at a college in Haiti for 3 years.
3 years, yeah. Imagine how different that must have been.
Profoundly different, I guess. After that, a brief return to radio journalism and PR this time in Monte Carlo,
Right, at Radio Evangeli.
followed by 7 years back in Belgium, teaching high school in Brussels and Waterloo. It really sounds like he was almost intentionally collecting these incredibly varied experience, like building blocks.
It does feel that way. Each role, you have to assume, added a unique layer, a different perspective. And it's this foundation, I think, that really set the stage for what came next. A pretty significant step.
Which was?
Moving to the USA, he came over to complete a master's in family therapy and then his PhD.
Okay, so academia calling.
Right. And before his current role, he taught French at Eastern Nazarene College in Quincy, Massachusetts, and also at the University of Connecticut.
Which brings us up to date, more or less. His current, and it's a long-standing position now, since 2005, he's been head of the French program at Point Loma Nazarene University, PLNU, down in San Diego.
PLNU.
And there he's, shaping the curriculum, teaching all sorts of courses,
Yeah.
from classic French lit all the way to thematic classes on fantasy literature and sci-fi.
Yeah, it shows his engagement really spans, the classical stuff and the contemporary, more speculative genres.
It's quite a range.
And what's fascinating here isn't just the depth of his scholarly work, but how these academic interests, which might seem separate, how they seem to directly inform his later creative work in fantasy. His core research, for instance, delves into the intersections of gender and class in 19th century French literature.
Yeah.
But he also explores French fantasy literature itself.
Right. So you've got, on one hand, his doctoral thesis, Splendeur et misère de la grisette, published in France. Now, for listeners who might not know, what exactly is La Grisette? Can you unpack that a bit?
Sure, yeah. La Grisette. She was this really fascinating figure in 19th century French literature and culture. Essentially, a young working-class woman, often a seamstress, maybe a shop girl,
Okay.
known for being independent, spirited, often with a bit of an artistic or bohemian flair. She kind of defied the really strict social norms of the time.
Ah, Okay, so a bit rebellious.
In her own way, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding these kinds of deeply researched character archetypes, especially ones who navigate or even, push back against social expectations,
Yeah.
that's got to be invaluable when you're creating your own characters later on. Maybe even unexpected ones like a witty gnome.
That makes perfect sense. You can see the connection. And he continued that line of research, too, with articles like Faire du Nouveau avec de l'Ancien about recycling the grisette figure in Victor Hugo's Les Misérables.
Exactly. And he also co-authored other works. There's Les Actes de San Diego, L'Illisibilité en Question, and a chapter in a collection called Of Elephants and Roses.
Oh.
The chapter title is great. An Egyptian giraffe and 6 Osage Indians. An exotic plea against the censorship of 1827.
Wow, okay. A giraffe and Osage Indians against censorship. How does that work?
Well, it highlights his talent for finding these, really unexpected connections. It seems the chapter looks at how obscure natural history details, things people were fascinated by then.
Like the giraffe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Were actually used in sort of political satire to critique censorship laws at the time. It shows a real knack for weaving together different threads, even in academic work, almost playful.
That is playful, and you can definitely see how that kind of thinking might translate well to fantasy writing.
For sure. His work also includes encyclopedia articles. He wrote entries on writers like Michael Moorcock and George MacDonald for a Dictionnaire de la Fantasy.
Makes sense, given his interest.
And also back to La Grisette for an encyclopedia of erotic literature. But then, perhaps most surprisingly,
Go on.
he's also written several books about the sacred cat of Burma.
The cat, really?
Yeah, like the cultural history, the mystique surrounding the breed, the extraordinary venture of the sacred cat of Burma in English, and the French version too.
Okay, from 19th century French literature to the cultural history of a specific cat breed. That is quite the range.
It's this incredibly rich, multi-layered career that forms this really unique foundation. You've got the deep literary analysis, the cultural history deep dives, even the cat stuff.
Ah, yeah.
And with that solid academic grounding, plus what seems like a lifelong passion for fantasy stories, he's now shifted his focus. He's aiming for a career in fiction, specifically young adult fantasy.
Right. And he's serious about it. He's completed 3 manuscripts, looking for an agent, really trying to blend those scholarly insights with imaginative storytelling.
It seems like all those years immersed in literature and academia didn't just give him a love for stories, but maybe a deep understanding of how stories work, how they're built.
Exactly. So with all that background in mind, let's dive into the first chapter of this novel, The Bloodstones of Power. The chapter is called Companionship.
Okay.
It opens with a character named Gebeto. He's described as an insignificant gnome.
Right, with nimble hands and furtive steps. A miner.
And right away, he finds something important, a transparent red stone. It feels warm. He tucks it into his pointed cap.
Yeah, a classic fantasy inciting incident, finding the mysterious object. And we learn later he's from the Fergus clan. His name, Gebeto, apparently means friend of the sword in Gnomish.
Friend of the sword for a gnome.
Well, it elaborates. An artisan of sharp and honed words, always ready to cut cleanly, as a blade cleaves through flesh.
Ah, okay, so his weapon is his wit, his words.
Seems like it. That little detail, hinting at the power of language, even for someone small, it feels very deliberate, very literary, perhaps, like something an academic might subtly weave in.
I agree completely. It hints at something deeper, maybe ironic about his character right away. And the core dynamic is set up immediately. An improbable alliance between this insignificant gnome and a colossal dragon.
Classic fantasy pairing, the small and the mighty. But the description improbable suggests it won't be straightforward.
Definite promises a twist. And the novel throws us right into how this alliance started via a flashback.
Right. Gebeto recounts being trapped. A collapsed mine shaft, a secret one. His leg was crushed. Air thick with dust, no water. Just desperation, crying out for help.
A really dire situation. You feel trapped just reading it.
Absolutely. And then he wakes up somewhere else entirely.
Not in the dark mine. He opens his eyes in this immense cavern, described like a crystal palace, shining like a diamond beneath a rain of liquid gold.
Wow, what imagery! An instant shift from crushing darkness to, well, overwhelming magical light.
Totally signals you're in a different kind of reality now.
And in the middle of this cavern, this palace,
Yeah.
something moves.
Yeah.
Something huge.
Dragon.
Cobalt worm. Her Majesty, clad in cobalt, described as fearsome, legendary, relentless, majestic.
And the physical description is, well, terrifying. Massive head, ruby eyes laced with gold, a colossal maw, ivory fangs, everything you'd expect from a legendary dragon.
Pure nightmare fuel, basically.
So you'd expect the gnome Gebetto to be just paralyzed with fear, right, faced with that.
You would think so. But his reaction is, well, it's nuts.
What does he do?
He bursts out laughing. A mad, explosive, uncontrollable laugh. He thinks it's a dream or some kind of illusion.
He laughs at the giant, terrifying dragon.
He laughs. Which, what does that tell us?
Yeah.
About him. About the tone the author's setting.
It's immediately disarming, isn't it? It sets him up as, well, not your typical hero. Maybe an underdog with a strange kind of courage. Or maybe just shock.
Could be shock. Could be a coping mechanism. But it definitely signals this isn't going to be your standard grim hero versus monster story. It sets a tone that's maybe whimsical, but still dangerous.
Yeah, whimsical danger. I like that. And it leads straight into a verbal sparring match, right? A battle of wits.
Exactly. Cobalt Worm, with her ancient, booming voice, basically tells him, "You're here because I allowed it." Her line is, "By my will and my consent." Very imperious.
And Gebetto, small as he is, facing certain death, he doesn't cower. He launches into what the book calls flowery speech. Flattery.
He lays it on thick. Right?
Oh, yeah. Calls her domain magnificent, says its beauty knows no bounds, calls the dragon herself radiant, unparalleled splendor, even the true rarity, the most dazzling jewel.
He's quite the talker, trying to charm his way out of being eaten, basically.
It feels like diplomacy under extreme pressure, maybe drawing on those journalistic skills again, using words as tools.
Could be. It's clever. And it leads to this really amusing moment about his size. Cobalt Worm herself says, "For the worth of a thing is not measured by its size."
The dragon says that.
The dragon says that, which is huge, right? It kind of humanizes her just a little, makes her more than just a monster, and it directly sets up that theme. Even the small can have great worth, great wit.
A theme you could definitely see appealing to someone who studied overlooked figures like La Grisette.
Exactly. It feels like a conscious echo.
Yeah.
Eventually, this witty back and forth leads to them actually exchanging names.
Right. She reveals herself first.
Yes. Her incandescent majesty, Cobalt Worm. Very grand.
And Gebetto, does he give his name right away?
After a bit more playful deflection, yeah.
Yeah.
He reveals he's Gebetto.
And then comes the connection, the link to the past.
This is where it gets really interesting. Gebetto mentions his dear great-uncle, someone named Riddlecracker the Wise.
Riddlecracker, great name for a gnome.
Isn't it? And he says Riddlecracker knew Cobalt Worm.
No way.
Yes. And Cobalt Worm confirms it. She says she met him once, calls him an adventurous gnome full of surprises and mischief. And then she puts it together, figures out that both Gebetto and Riddlecracker must be from the Fergus clan.
So it connects them. It shows this isn't just a random meeting. There's history between their families, their lineages.
Precisely. It instantly adds this layer of depth, this sense of a much larger, older world where these connections exist. Really effective world building just through that one reveal.
So, stepping back, what does this all mean? We've taken this deep dive into Alain Lescart's life. It's fascinating, so multi-layered. You trace his path from journalist traveling the world to dedicated teacher to a serious academic and now emerging fantasy author.
And what really stands out, I think, is just the incredible way all these different experiences seem to connect and feed into what he's doing now creatively.
Right, teaching on different continents, the deep research into literary figures like La Grisette, even the quirky natural history stuff.
The giraffe.
The giraffe. It all seems relevant somehow.
It really does. His novel, The Bloodstones of Power, based on that first chapter anyway, it doesn't feel like just a fantasy story. It feels infused with, well, with critical thinking, with nuanced character work, a love for the unexpected. Things you can see clearly defined his earlier academic and journalistic work.
The witty dialogue, the way he builds the world, the surprising character reactions. It feels like it's all informed by that background. The academic rigor meets the storyteller's imagination.
Well put. Which kind of raises an important question maybe for you, our listener.
Yeah.
How might your own unique path, all the different knowledge and experiences you've gathered, maybe things that seem totally unrelated, how might they surprisingly connect? How might they converge and create something entirely new, something unexpected in your own life?
That's a great thought. We invite you to think about the bloodstones in your own experience. You know, those individual nuggets of knowledge, those insights, those skills you've picked up along the way.
Yeah, the things that make your history unique.
Exactly. And consider how bringing them together, looking at them in a new light, might just spark a wholly new and exciting purpose for you, something to mull over.